Good evening, everyone. We're just getting ready to get started. Sorry, we're running a little late. We actually had some off camera business that we needed to take care of. But welcome to the pre-show stream of Geek News Reviews and Opinions podcast. It's been a while. We didn't record on Thanksgiving. I hope everybody who celebrated Thanksgiving had an awesome one. Filled with
Adam, are you saying it's been a while?
It's been a while since I could hold my head up high. It's been a while since I said I'm sorry. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. So yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. I hope everybody had an awesome Thanksgiving and Black Friday and all that fun stuff. Obviously, you guys can tell the Shadow Blazer survived yet another Black Friday. This is good. The contact gear we bought
didn't have to
worth it. What was that?
I didn't have to. Fun fact: I didn't have to actually work Black Friday. Even then, I heard it was actually kind of slow, which it's kind of expected because our store does not do like doorbusters and those game busters kind of sales like other stores.
Well,
so we really just kind of get the trickle in crowds once all the other big sales are over.
Also, just to be honest, like the area that we live in, like we live in suburb areas of Salt Lake City, so Salt Lake City itself would probably see these door busting Black Fridays happen, but in our immediate area, I don't think they happen that often. I know some of my family do dedicated Black Friday stuff, but like I think it was last year, I actually had to go and get baby food for my daughter, and it was dead at my local Walmart. And Walmart's like the worst candidate there. Like that's where you're expecting to see all the bull crap happen, and there just wasn't anything happening there.
Yeah, well, I mean Walmart, and that's because I think also so many businesses are just doing these on Thanksgiving Day now. That everybody just goes out on Thanksgiving because if they don't have family plans or anything, then they just go out in the evening and do the shopping then. Or they do it super early in the morning, Black Friday. So pretty much by the afternoon, it's all dead. Though my store where I work is actually right across the street from the mall. I heard the mall was packed. I didn't. Yeah, but I worked the Saturday after, but I worked very early in the morning.
The mall that you work close to, and then another mall I've heard, like they give incentives for people to come out and do that the nutsiness.
Oh yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah, I don't think your store is doing any kind of encouragement. I know that like the local malls near me don't do it, mainly because they don't need to.
Yeah,
I think the most business that happens near me is the movie theater. And fun fact, so the movie theater that we always go and see our vlogs at is just like right around the corner from my place, and that's probably the most business that got. So, oh well. And oh, look, we have a guest. Ooh.
Brenton.
Hi.
See, guys,
how's married life?
I was going to say, married life didn't kill you. See, there you go. We have two pieces of good news. Alex survived Black Friday.
Yay.
And Brenton survived getting a ball and chain.
Well, I've been with Nathan for over a year, so I mean...
I'm just happy that I'm not the only one that's going to get the married jokes anymore.
The thing is, I'm going to get the married and gay married jokes, so...
I mean, like, the cool part is like, again, if you guys haven't actually seen the Why We Geek episode of Geeky Couples, where actually him and his hubby Nathan came on, that's pretty much what you're expecting from that. I mean, I've spent enough time with the happy couple. Yeah, that's how they are. There's really no difference there. Maybe I learned a couple of unique facts into like their likes and dislikes, but that's about it. Married life is not that bad, people, is what I'm trying to say. Married life is in fact probably better than you think.
I quite enjoy it. I mean, I definitely feel a difference, but it's it's just relationship as usual, business as usual, gaming as usual, life as usual.
Nothing really changed. Aside from like for you, like you just barely said it. You'd been living with him for what? Going on 6 months to a year?
So by the weekend we got married marked 1 year that I had actually moved in with Nathan. because I moved in with Nathan the week of BlizzCon last year. And so literally we brought in like my remaining stuff. I paid off the rest of like I settled everything with the complex I was living at. And then a few days later, we took a flight to Los Angeles for BlizzCon. And then I met Nathan in June of last year. So essentially, by the time we got married, we had been together for a year and a half, roughly.
Yeah, so at that point, you guys had been living together for a good portion. So not a whole lot was going to change in that regard. When I got married to Andrea, I had not lived with really, well, anybody in 3 to 4 years, at least. Like, I lived with my dad, but frankly, it was more along the lines of having an apartment downstairs and not actually living with him. I just, went up and helped out with doctor stuff, but at that point, that was a worse transition, because not only had I not lived with someone for like a good solid couple of years, but then it was someone of the opposite gender. So it's like, oh, I never had to. I mean, I had a sister, but I never had to deal with any of the girly stuff.
Because that was like all private and shut behind closed doors, whereas probably in your situation, it's a little more, hey, this is going on, and I'm letting you know because respect.
Well, and on top of that, like my sister and me have, I think, a 5-year difference between the two of us. So at that point, like a lot of those prominent things, I was too young to get. So it didn't really even connect, and that was probably the biggest transition there. But now it's not even a problem, especially now that I change diapers for a living. So I swear that's what I do. The only thing I feel bad about, and I haven't told this story on the podcast yet, but I feel really bad because we unfortunately we tried to get a babysitter before your wedding, and my daughter, unfortunately, we couldn't find one. So we took my daughter along, and my daughter just decided that day, maybe because she was already coming down with a cold, but she just decided, I'm not going to behave regardless of what you asked me to do. And so she insisted on walking around the area that Brenton was getting married in. And then when we all sat down for the ceremony, as it were, she refused to sit down. We had to tie her down with a bottle, and then even then she was being super fussy. So I'm like, oh great, I'm that parent now at the wedding. I'm that parent that has to walk their kid out. And I did. And
it was okay.
Yeah.
It was
thankfully you guys were very, very patient with me. But I had a feeling like I was getting the evil eye from a few people. It's like, could you take the crying baby out?
Like honestly, like that whole ceremony was completely unrehearsed. We winged every little second of that.
That's the feel I got from it. Is that it was pretty much off the cuff.
Yeah, more or less. Because Nathan and I were just like, we're not doing like a wedding dinner before, like the night before. Like, we're already spending so much money putting this all together. So we just winged it. We knew who we wanted to stand up there with us. We like tried to get them a notice about it before the day of the wedding, and we knew, like, we had our vows prepared. I forgot to type mine out, but I kind of had a rough idea of what I wanted to say, so I just kind of winged that as well. Yeah. And then as soon as we were married, after that, it was just kind of easy going. And that was really the only thing Nathan and I worried about. The rest of the evening we knew was just going to play itself out, which it did. And it was very nice and much fun. And then my officiator stole my amiibo.
I forgot about that because I actually didn't get to see so he actually had amiibos for wedding cakes. For his wedding cake. And which one did he take?
He took both the Mario and Bowser in their like tuxedos, and my mom was like, and I because I thought my mom and dad took them home, and we were gonna pick them up when we visited them for Thanksgiving, and she was like, no, Eric took them, and I've known my officiator. Like, I've known my officiator for over 10 years. He was additionally my best man. So So when I say my officiator took them, I don't mean some random priest stole my property.
No.
It was more my best friend stole my property.
Well, I mean, the problem though is that, yeah, I mean, not speaking ill of our fellow panelist Aldo Gomez, but you know, two amiibos that he probably doesn't have at that point. I mean, he probably would have done that too, just because of the rarity of them.
Well, the thing is, like, he's not even an amiibo collector for I'll have to show you a picture of our wedding cake, but we had like the lady who made our cake, she made like Goombas and piranha plants and stuff out of fondant.
Really?
And so, yeah, like, oh my gosh, the cake was amazing. I will have to show you a picture when I get the chance.
Please, because I already know my wife is also going to want to see him too.
Yeah, oh my gosh, the cake was so cool. But anyway, I know that Eric was taking like some of the individual Goombas and piranha plants and had like put them into a takeaway box. And I was like, I don't like, fine, whatever. Like, I'm probably going to completely forget about these. Obviously, I didn't. But anyway, so my mom was like, Eric took them. And I was like, why did Eric take them? And she said, he has plans and you will receive them back eventually. And I was like, I feel and so my response to that was, I feel like you know something I don't, and that this very moment was rehearsed heavily between you and Eric. And she was like, possibly. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I haven't like called him, like I haven't called him yet, but I'm at the point where I'm like, Eric, give me my effing amiibo back because I want them for my freaking game.
So basically what you've just told us is that we all need to be wearing the tinfoil hats because that there be a conspiracy.
Sure, I guess. I don't know what he needs to use them for. All I know is I want my Mario one back, so that way I can get like the Mario tux that you can wear in game, and then the Bowser amiibo helps you track down coins that's specific to the kingdom. And these coins allow you to like buy additional outfits or stickers to put on the Odyssey, or like and I'm not kidding you, quote unquote souvenirs that you can put inside of the Odyssey. And so I want my amiibo back. I want my free stuff.
Well, we'll start up a whole movement to get your amiibos back. Now, I do have a little bit of bad news, guys. Unfortunately, Stephen Romney might not be able to join us tonight. I just barely got a text from him. He's had an emergency come up with his mom and might actually have to take her to Instacare. So at that point, he's probably going to miss tonight. And so we'll just go ahead and go on without him. And I've just told him if he wants to show up, then he could show up and we'll get him up to speed. But we actually do need to get started because we have lots of stuff to go over. And unfortunately, no K2SO with the Prozac budget, because that's going to be a thing. Oh, that's going to be a thing, my friends. But at least we have a happily married Brinton who's probably on a much greater version of happy right now to prepare him for what's to come. And Alex survived. So, I mean, he's on survival happiness right now. And I'm just, well, me.
And that's all we need.
Exactly. All right. So let me know when you guys are good to go.
I'm good to go.
There we go. Oh, and by the way, if people are having feedback or whatever from my new mic, just let me know, because all I got to do is just turn it down a little bit. Okay. So 3, 2, 1. Cool. Well, here we go, everybody. And first of all, welcome to all of the people in the live chat, and you're more than welcome to comment on the stories as we go along. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in geek for Friday night, December 1st, 2017. I'm your host, Adam Mickelson. I hope everybody's had an awesome couple of weeks, because we did take a break from Thanksgiving so that everybody could have their turkey day and be able to recover from their food comas properly, as well as watch football or, esports. I was actually kind of surprised. There was a little bit of esports going on. So now I have something to watch on Thanksgiving. I was a little surprised by that, but I hope everybody had an awesome weekend. And of course, I'm being joined by my panel of fellow YouTubers, fellow geeks, fellow awesome guys in general. If you're not following their content, you should be, darn it. And unfortunately, we're going to be missing Stephen Romney, I think, for the night. He had a little bit of an emergency come up, but that's all right because we had somebody step in last minute, and that is a returning Brenton Volley of Brenton Volley Gaming, the happily married Brenton Volley. How you doing tonight, man?
Happily married.
As one person quoted to me long ago, it's a wonderful institution, and I highly recommend it.
Yes,
and especially
much.
In your case.
Yes.
All right. So we have Brenton Volley here, but we also have the Shadow Blazer himself, who has come out of the shadows to not only survive 1, not 2, but 3 Black Fridays in a row. Alex, how you doing tonight?
More like 5 Black Fridays in a row, but whatever.
Anyway,
true, yeah. I'm doing...
do we count the Radio SLCC days? You know what, dang it, we do. 5. He's the 5-timer Black Friday survivor.
Okay. I'm doing well otherwise. It's been a long week, very busy, lots to do before holiday madness ensues, even though, I don't know, it's weird because it doesn't feel that busy, but all signs are pointing to the fact that we're busy. I guess it just gets busy after I leave. So, but anyway, long week, but looking forward to the weekend. Today's been a little weird because I got some good and bad news at the same time. I don't want to get too much into it, but yeah. At least on the good news, and anyone who knows me knows I love the anime Cardcaptor Sakura, and I'm so happy to have found out that the second series that's coming out in 2018 is going on to Crunchyroll. So yeah, I'll be able to watch it without guilt. And of course, Funimation also has the license, so 99.9% sure it will probably get a dub too.
Very nice. I would love me some card captors. It's been a long while, and yes. I don't have the problems that a lot of people do.
It has been a long while. That's a good show.
It is actually. But yeah, so unfortunately, Stephen Romney might not be able to join us tonight. He might be sneaking in here and there. I told him if he wants to show up, he can. But we have lots to go over, and so we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. The first thing is already dipping into the Prozac budget, because this is a situation that actually broke again while we were doing the podcast, and it only got worse from there. So if you guys do not know or understand the YouTube Kids fiasco, you're going to get to know it really well tonight. So just to bring people up to speed, the YouTube Kids fiasco is there's a little bit of a kind of like with Netflix and Amazon, where there's a kids mode where only kiddie stuff gets shown to them, and it's very restricted and all that. YouTube also had a separate app called YouTube Kids, which would just show them videos that would cater to what they want. So a lot of it was just Paw Patrol stuff, Dora the Explorer, Elsa, Marvel superheroes kind of stuff. What we didn't know, though, is that some people YouTube stories always start this way. Someone tries to abuse the system. And the way that they abused it is that they started having very risque segments in their videos. I didn't actually believe Phil DeFranco when he broke this story. I actually did the unfortunate thing of watching some of these videos as a parent. And I wish I hadn't, because holy crap, the stuff they were trying to get away with is just... I thought the trolls in my neck of the woods of YouTube were bad. Everything that was happening on YouTube Kids is like 10 times worse than anything I could have possibly watched. In particular, one video that Phil DeFranco did call out that I'm going to call out too is a very odd video involving Spider-Man and Catwoman, where eventually Spider-Man and Catwoman end up on a bed with Catwoman on top of Spider-Man, with all the parts in the right places, and they start making some movements that I don't want to have to explain to my children at so young an age. There was worse stuff too, like the one that I only saw 2 of these things, but there was one where I think a guy in a Joker mask actually pointed a gun at an Elsa, so that was on camera. There was also one involving Mickey Mouse and a gun. Then there were the other one that I saw, which was basically pandering to the other problem that came up with this whole thing, is I want to say a girl that was like 8 to 10 years old who was literally sitting in an adult crib with like adult baby stuff. And oh, the comments on that video. Oh, Jiminy Christmas. Because here's the other problem with it. There be tons of pedophiles watching these videos right alongside the kids. And the comments they leave, my friends. The comments they leave. Well, as you guys can imagine, when this situation came to light, YouTube was kind of in trouble again. And thus started what people are now calling Adpocalypse 2.0. So major ad providers were leaving, major sponsors were leaving. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I know the two biggest ones are Adidas and the Mars company. So the Mars candies, if you were used to seeing those Snickers commercials on your videos, you ain't seeing them anymore, because after that whole YouTube Kids fiasco, they are done. And YouTube is losing out on that money. Now, here's the thing. To YouTube's credit, they have begun to crack down. They actually shut down the comments for a lot of these YouTube Kids videos. They've shut down a lot of the major videos that had a lot of these risque problems. But that was just the first wave. And now people are already starting to find ways around their algorithm again to be able to leave this stuff for your kids to find. I just have no words. I really ought to go to you guys first before I, unleash my rage here. Any thoughts on this whole thing? Have you guys been able to follow the story at all?
Yeah, I followed the story.
Yeah, this is something that I've actually known about for quite some time. So I actually find it interesting that it is being brought to light a little bit more now than it because I know this has been a problem for a little bit longer than it sounds like.
Yeah, it's been, from what we can understand, it's been a long-standing problem that YouTube has just done nothing about. Apparently, YouTube was off taking care of other problems that weren't necessarily all that important.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a really gross misconduct of just so I think I'm also at a loss of words as well, as the most that I can understand out of all of this is that actually the thing is, what I want to say you've already stated perfectly, Adam. I don't I really am just at a shock that there are people who would who just want to destroy children's innocence. And for somebody who uses YouTube Kids a lot, because I work with because I've used YouTube Kids a lot, and not because I want to watch kids videos, but because I've worked, let me rephrase that, I have worked primarily with children who are on the autism spectrum disorder. So whenever they've earned time for like the iPad, or they've earned time to watch a video, or et cetera, I turn on YouTube Kids, because the ads are going to be kid friendly. The videos are going to be, and unfortunately I now have to say, going to be typically kid friendly, and you can generally find something that you can just put on, put in front of the kid, they watch it, and then you go back to their therapy, and you don't have to worry about adult content. And so it's just disgusting that these people can make these type of videos, bypass any sort of restrictions, because they're just tagging the video with fun kid phrases, they're titling the video with fun kid phrases, and they're editing their thumbnails to look fun and friendly, and Elsa and Mickey and Spider-Man and Iron Man and the Avengers and Star Wars. Look at all these fun characters. And then you go and click on the video, and they're like, and I mean, to put it simply, Catman and Spider-Man doing it on the bed. Like,
yeah. Or I mean, again, like having a gun pointed at, I mean, for crying out loud, for all the shootings that we've actually had this year, are any of those videos appropriate for kids to watch? They're not. And yet, and here's the thing too, the part that pisses me off the most about this, if you take a look at the views on those videos, I mean, these channels, the ones that are abusing the system, they're making a killing money-wise. We're talking lots and lots and lots of views. In a lot of cases, that the reason that is, look at a kid's attention span. They're gonna click or touch whatever they. I mean, the best scenario here, or best case scenario, is a parent just hands their kid an iPad and you can access YouTube Kids. They're gonna constantly touch new videos, and there you go. There's your instant clicks. There's your instant ads. There's your instant success. And holy crap, they already, like, YouTube literally just wasn't watching this neck of the woods. This is like the one thing. YouTube, you had one job. You had one job.
The thing is, Adam, like, as much as I want to put a lot of blame on YouTube for not catching it right away, at the same time, I can't necessarily be quite mad at them, because these people, like, well, I mean, I don't want to say they're intelligent, because they're not intelligent in my eye, but they're intelligent to a point where they were able to fool a lot of people. If I didn't know any of this was going on, and one of my, not that I have kids yet, but if one of my kids just happened to click on one of these videos, it's like, oh, like Spider-Man and Catwoman and like fun, friendly title, like whatever, I'm going to turn a blind eye. I'm not really going to, like, they make it appealing, and they hide the fact of what the actual content is, so that parents are like, oh, this is fine, like it's on YouTube Kids, whatever, like it's safe.
They make it playful for kids, but then they also make it, well, really hot for pedophiles. So,
well, that's once you actually click into the video and the content becomes recognizable. And honestly, Adam, you can bet that these people who are creating these videos obviously have some sort of cahoots or know somebody who are going to want to watch these videos. And so yes, there are going to be pedophiles who are watching these videos, so they're being viewed millions of times.
Yeah.
And because they're being viewed millions of times, they're showing up on popular feeds. And because they're being streamed into YouTube Kids, kids are clicking on them because they don't know any better. Parents don't know any better. So again, I don't want to say these people are intelligent, because there's no intelligence in doing cruel, disgusting acts like this, but at the same time, they are, because at a certain point, they realized, oh, why not?
There's intelligence here, but the intelligence is basically how to work the system, and that's what they're intending to do. And so at that point, I mean, these are just quick ways for them to get cash, and already now that YouTube has started to crack down on this stuff, they're already trying to find ways around it so that they can continue to get money off their videos, especially the ones, because here's the thing, a lot of the offending ones are either shut down or they can't be monetized at all. They, like, I don't know what YouTube did on the algorithm, but they permanently made them either private or unmonetizable. So at that point, it's pretty nuts. Alex, you've been kind of quiet on this one. What is your take on this matter?
Well, I gotta know, why did you feel compelled to go down the rabbit hole and actually look at the content up yourself?
You just want me to tell the story, don't you? We actually talked about this on Draken's Shadow. It's like, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt and say things are more optimistic than what you think they are. And so when Phil DeFranco puts up stories, that's how I came across this, is Phil DeFranco's breaking story on it. And even then he was kind of, I think, second or third hand. I think the initial one was actually complaining parents. So thankfully the parents were paying attention, Brinton. But Phil DeFranco put up that story, and I'm just like, they can't possibly be that bad. And I've done this maybe twice with Phil. Like a lot of the stuff that he puts up there, I will go and look up the articles, but I can guarantee, like, if it's gaming oriented, I can tell you that's going to be a thing. Like the whole Battlefront fiasco, I knew that was going on. But this is one of those things where I'm like, it can't be that bad. Maybe they're just misconstruing. And then I watched one or two videos. I'm like, oh crap, it is. And now I'm just so glad that the only exposure my daughter has ever had to online content has been Netflix. And it's been Little Einsteins and one Netflix run series. And I'm just like, wow, I could have easily, like, there were a few times where I actually considered, like, getting YouTube Kids. I know it's a separate app on the Roku, and getting YouTube Kids for her so that she could just continue to watch stuff, because I knew that you could put it on autoplay. And now I'm glad I didn't, because this stuff, like, walking into this, I'd be like, holy crap. This is stuff that I'm glad that my 2-year-old doesn't understand yet, because I'd have to explain a few things.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the blame does lie on YouTube here because this is an app specifically tailored for a specific audience, a very specific audience. It's not like, we complain a lot that YouTube doesn't put enough amount into policing and monitoring their own site when it comes to like DMCA claims, but obviously YouTube gets tons and tons and tons of uploads every day, every week, every month, right? But this is specifically content made for kids, and YouTube is not doing their job in policing their kids section.
Yeah.
The most vulnerable audience and most vulnerable people who are going to be using their site, that's something that should have a lot of scrutiny by your staff. There's just no excuse. I feel like you dropped the ball here, YouTube.
Well,
either you turn a blind eye.
They deserve the repercussions they got.
Oh yeah, they deserve
the Mars like. I think by now, I think by the first Adpocalypse, PepsiCo had left. So at that, because I knew like around summertime, you noticed that you didn't get too many Mountain Dew commercials anymore. And now I think they're back, but they're limited. But Mars, like, that's a candy seller, guys. They can't be associated with this stuff at all.
No, they definitely cannot. Luckily for Mars, I'm still going to eat their candy just because Snickers. But I mean, who doesn't like a good Snickers? Come on, they have good commercials.
I'm a Milky Way guy, but whatever.
No, I'm just, you know what? I'm just a chocolate person. Throw me a chocolate bar and I will consume it. But that's a tangent.
Fun fact about me, like the holidays are like the best time for me because like all my favorite chocolate treats come out. So, but like my freezer just gets loaded down with all that stuff because it doesn't get sold any time of the year. So like right now, my wife is complaining because there's like 5 chocolate oranges in our freezer just because I'm trying to keep it all fresh so that it can be eaten properly.
Oh my Lanta!
No,
I feel like
I have it.
Okay, I'm gonna like talk to your wife and be like, you know what, girl? This is appropriate behavior.
Okay, all right.
I'm a behavior psychologist. Okay, I almost have my bachelor's degree, but I have enough education where I can proudly say that this is appropriate behavior.
Yes,
Adam is okay.
See, for a second there, I thought Brenton was going to come down hard on me.
Oh no!
I thought so too. I thought he was going to say, "Boy, you're crazy."
Because her reasoning is justified. Because given the stuff that I've actually had to deal with this year with stress and blood pressure and all that stuff, I mean, it is kind of justified. But at that point, it's like, dude, I can only get these once a year, and they literally go up like hotcakes. They do. Like all the stores around me, once that stuff is available, it goes up like nothing.
Okay, Adam, as right and justified as your wife may be, I'm calling BS still. And if you want, you know what, Adam, if you were to text me, be like, I bought 50 more, look at this picture of my gorgeously lined fridge of chocolate oranges, I would send you the clapping hands emoji and be able to say proudly, I am glad I am your friend. Like, may your orange flag just wind all over the place.
Cool.
My words escaped me. That was a tangent, guys. Anyway,
yeah, that's fine.
YouTube.
Yeah,
YouTube.
I'm fine with tangents at this point because this is damn depressing. I mean, like we all thought that it couldn't get worse than PewDiePie acting like an idiot on his channel and kind of hurting things, but this
I feel like that's just been a theme of 2017 in general. But
it was one of those things that made me laugh because one of my friends actually sent to me a little meme saying, well, you guys, how many people said that the Game Grumps weren't safe, and now you look at the stuff on YouTube Kids, and that was probably the most safe stuff you could have had your kids watching. So I'm happy to say that my daughter has watched a little bit of Game Grumps. She's fine.
But I'm pretty sure most of the stuff they say goes way over her head.
Yeah. I've got a 2-year-old daughter, so it's not like anything is going to stick there. I just don't want to have that inconvenient moment where her first word is dropping the F-bomb. Because that'll be really awkward in the middle of a Walmart. I'm just saying.
I kind of want to be there if it were to happen. I'm going to secretly stalk you now, if that's okay.
That's all right. Just keep in mind you're going to be seeing a lot of Laura Bailey, according to Alex. So
if you're announcing it, then you're really not secretly stalking him.
No. But yeah, so just kind of wrap things up. I'll give my opinion on the matter, which is I think both Brenton and Alex are in the right. I think the content creators that are doing this are to blame. They share most of it because they're the ones actually performing the malicious acts. They're the ones that are actually making it an unsafe environment for kids. And I'm not cool with that. In fact, as soon as I saw these videos, I immediately reported them because that's really, as a parent and as a YouTuber, that's what we should be doing. I am, however, not going to let YouTube off the hook here because YouTube has had problems all year. And all of this is stemming from the bigger problem. I can't help but wonder, where was your focus, YouTube, when this was going on? Because the way that it looks like, I actually looked at some of those comments, and they date back months. In fact, in some cases, years. So at that point, while this was going on, you know that YouTube's eyes were somewhere else. And I know exactly where they were. They were dealing with all of the controversies in the gaming community and in unfortunately, the political community. I mean, holy crap, like 2 of the biggest things that happened on YouTube this year were VidCon and pretty much anything involving Trump. And so at that point, all of that's where YouTube's eyes were. And while they were dealing with that stuff and all the people that they just didn't agree with, this was going on. And there's a reason I said that you had one job, YouTube, because adults aren't really going to care what you put in front of them, because either they can choose to watch it or they can choose to unlike it or to dislike it and move on, or they can complain about it. The kids are unsuspecting in this whole deal. All they are doing is pressing the videos because they like Elsa. Oh, look, I can do Elsa in a ball pit. Oh, I can do Elsa with a gun pointed to her head. I don't necessarily understand that, but I'll click it because it's Elsa. That's a problem. And that's something that should have been handled from YouTube from the get-go. But unfortunately, it's painfully clear where YouTube's focus was, what YouTube was trying to accomplish, and maybe, just maybe, you should actually consider the consequences of the actions you've just ensued upon you. Okay? Because this is you. You deserve to lose these potential ad revenues. It's one of those things that I've actually even said on video. This has just convinced it to me. If YouTube continues to make these mistakes, I give it 1 to 2 years, and then Google is going to say enough is enough, and they're going to get rid of it. They're going to sell it off, or they're going to just discontinue the service completely.
Which is going to suck, because then we will have to find a new. Well, actually, I would probably just turn to streaming at that point. I've already mentioned it a few times on my own channel.
I think that at that point we would have no other choice, because all of the unfortunate reality is a lot of these other venues that people are going to are starting to shut down because they can't contend with YouTube. Now, granted, we do actually have an announcement later on in the agenda that could fix this, but yeah, it's not looking likely. Like, everybody will, if you're going to be a gamer, like, a Let's Player like me and Alex and you, Brenton, we're going to have to stream. And if you don't have the build for it, then you're just kind of out of luck.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's very simple. YouTube, get your damn act together, or you won't be around. And frankly, maybe that'll be for the better. Maybe that'll be for the worse. I think it'll be for the worse, because there are a lot of really great content creators that have no other means to be able to put their videos up. Because as much as I think, Alex, you're actually on Vimeo or Dailymotion, but neither one of us are.
Yeah, I'm on Dailymotion, but really, there's nothing there. It might as well just be. It might as well be my own private blog, pretty much, because I get nothing there. Even when I directly tell people to go there, like because sometimes I have to put a video up there in substitution of YouTube because I can't get it past Content ID, and I'll link right to it, but nothing really amounts to it. So really, YouTube still holds the dominant market here.
Yeah. And it's actually one of those things that somebody actually did ask, or a listener did ask of us, like, has YouTube got, and I guess we'll wrap up with this, but has YouTube gotten bad enough to a point where they need outside parties to come in and fix the problem? Like, is too much, are there too many problems internally that are creating all of these messes, and now they actually need to have outside observers and outside assistants? And I would honestly say yes, because everything that we've learned,
I think they need to fire their CEO at this point. They've had one too many screw ups this year.
I would say it doesn't even need to end at the CEO. There've been screw ups throughout the whole thing. And it's one of those things where if you want to have an outside source come in and do that, that's fine. But really, this is one of those things where Big Daddy needs to step in. Google needs to step in and say, you have effed up for the last time. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. All of the stuff that you guys are doing, we're done supporting until you guys solve this content ID situation, until you solve proper feedback for content creators, blah, 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 blah. You know, like that's really what needs to happen here, but I don't see this happening internally. So yeah, I do think an outside party needs to come in and assess that.
What would you propose, hypothetically?
I couldn't begin to give you one, just because like the question in particular was just an outside party coming in to assess the situation. I would guess that the closest thing I can come up with would be something like the FCC coming in. But even then, I don't know if they would actually have jurisdiction here. And frankly, I don't know if things would get better or worse if the FCC stepped in.
Given the state of the FCC now, I think that's a very bad idea. But
yeah, so it wouldn't necessarily change things. But I can't think of a. I'm usually a guy who goes with private solutions, and I can't think of a private solution here.
Yeah, that's why frankly, I can't either, because YouTube's already owned by Google. If YouTube was just its own independent company, then I'd say there's something to that. But really, the only where else to go here in terms of bringing in an outside solution is really just hiring a PR firm to spin something here.
Or the other thing that just barely came to my mind is the private solution. We've already said is Google needs to step in because Google's the parent company. And unfortunately, the problem is Google ain't going to do anything about it.
I mean, it's already owned by Google. What is Google already not doing? I don't think Google gives YouTube complete autonomy. It's a multi-million-dollar operation, I'm sure.
That would be
YouTube.
Yeah, that would be the private industry solution, is to have the parent company step in.
Well, that's my point. Yeah. They already are.
Yeah, pretty much. They're just as complicit. So
really, this is why my solution isn't more have some company step in, because at this point there's no one else to step in because it's already owned by Google. It's just fire your board of directors from YouTube, fire your CEO, and you're
just pretty much down the line.
Yeah, because really you're having one too many problems this year that you really, really need new management. This is the point Google needs to.
And frankly, the other thing too is I would want them to hand over the keys to the algorithm to somebody, because it's very clear from what we've learned this past year that somebody can actually go in and modify the algorithms for YouTube. It's very clear. As much as YouTube comes out and says, no, it's a self-thinking system and blah, 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 blah. No, somebody's going in and modifying it. So at that, they at least have to modify the base code so that the line of thinking that YouTube's algorithm is doing goes where it wants it to go. So at that point, that's another thing that needs to be taken care of. Whoever is managing that needs to be fired, and it needs to be put in the hands of a non-biased party. Brinton, where are you standing with it? Do they need outside help here, or are they just a lost cause?
Honestly, I don't even know anymore. I feel like some of the options to a plausible solution that both you and Alex have stated seem both reasonable, but only time will tell how much longer it will be until something really bad happens, and then it just pretty much explodes indefinitely, and then we all go to Twitch.
Pretty much. And then Twitch can't have us because they only have so much server space. Or like I said, later on tonight, we might actually have a viable solution for that. But let's go ahead and get into the next story, which is equally as infuriating and frustrating. Is we've got more stuff to talk about with the wonderful empire that is known as EA. So last time we covered the whole microtransactions being suspended. And in fact, later after that, we found out even more ripple effects have been happening. In particular, one of the game that I'm reviewing, Need for Speed Payback, had its microtransactions modified because of the whole Battlefront 2 situation. But while all this was going on, we got a little bit of good news. I'm not going to say it's great news, but it at least is good. We already knew that stock prices and other business-related things were starting to happen to EA because of the whole microtransactions fiasco. We can now officially confirm that shares of EA or Electronic Arts have gone down 8.5%, which in turn has actually has produced a net value loss for EA in the ballpark of $3 billion. So where they were originally worth this $3 billion, they are no longer worth that. So much so that I actually do know that there's been a little bit of shareholder feedback coming in, and I do know that they're getting a lot of flack business-wise because of all this stuff. Now, while that does sound like good news, and I'm not saying it's bad, I actually think it is at least a dent in what people are trying to do with this whole microtransactions fiasco. The other part that you need to look at is that while this has been happening, EA has also had a pretty decent amount of growth this year too, to the tune of about 30% growth. So not affected by this whole Battlefront issue. And now the $3 billion basically goes into that profit margin, if that makes sense. So again, I'm not saying that what happened here isn't good news, but you have to actually look at it from this perspective. It's not enough that EA is crippled here. They still are very much running the way that they want to run. If anything, this is going to look like a major dent in their armor because the Star Wars license is solely held by them. And if they mess that up, then Disney can step in like they did and say, nope, you've lost your permission and we're going to hand that over to your competitors, which would be a huge loss for EA. They can no longer make Star Wars games. So at that point, we do have that. And I'm just going to cover these things step by step as we go along, because there's a couple of stories with EA. I'm going to go ahead and get to Alex and Brinton here. So, I mean, what are you guys' take on this? Is this good news, bad news? Does it even matter in some cases with you? We actually haven't covered the whole microtransactions mess with you, Brinton, because I believe you weren't here when we actually covered it. What's your take on that too?
Well, luckily for you, I do peruse Twitter every once in a while.
Okay.
But no, Nathan has been following it pretty extensively as well because he bought Battlefront 2. We're Star Wars fans. He wanted to play the game, and honestly, because of how big the backlash has been towards the microtransactions, not to completely discredit a lot of what has already been said, but you don't need to play over 40 hours before all the credits for some of the characters the value decreased. You did not need to play over 40 hours to unlock Darth Vader. Like, before they decreased the credits, Nathan was like already halfway to unlocking Vader, and he was playing for like less than 5.
Okay.
He hasn't spent a single penny on any of the loot boxes, but he's gotten some pretty good stuff from the daily free loot boxes that he gets.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say he has now unlocked Vader just because they've decreased his value enough that he could actually unlock it.
Okay.
So I will defend EA And I will call out a little bit of BS because it's a bit exaggerated, but I do agree with the fact that there are some games where people spend, the extra money beyond the $60 for the season passes and the special editions and, deluxe, gold, supreme, whatever you want to call them. And then there are, these microtransactions and other things guarding you from being able to play to its full capabilities, which I think is stupid, because at that point, you've already paid upfront extra money for content that will eventually come out, but so all that aside, you're still paying $60 for content that should not be locked unless you pay even more money. And so that's why I think people start getting super pissed, because not only are they paying the $60 for the game, but they're paying the $30 for the DLC and an additional $20 or $30 for extra content for like special editions and other shit. And then they're being told spend an additional like $5 to $20 to be able to do stuff in the game that you should already be able to do if you just bought the base $60 game. So that's what I understand. That's what I agree with. That I do agree is bullshit, but I'm not going to agree with people who say I had to spend 40 hours playing game to get Darth Vader.
Well, the 40 hours, I don't think it was with the significant reduction. I think they got reworked. The 40 hours I remember was from the beta. It would take 40 hours at the numbers that the beta had it. And I think the beta was slightly higher than what was out before the crunch happened.
Which you're absolutely correct about. But the thing is, Adam, Nathan was halfway to unlocking Vader after playing less than 5 hours. So that's why I have a really difficult time believing that somebody had to be really, really, really bad at the game to play 40 hours to unlock Vader, or they were just trying to make a huge stink.
It's a 50-50 thing, because I've seen some beta streamers that got really lucky and got all the stuff necessary, and then I've also seen streamers that weren't on the beta, and they were having absolute worst luck, especially when it came to the crafting resources for the guns. They were just having absolute crap luck. They kept on getting the cards, and the cards were virtually worthless to them because they already had that version of the card. And so in a lot of cases, I can understand the issues with that. Frankly, I've had the same issue that I've always had, which is if you're going to do loot boxes of any kind, it really should be in the Overwatch-esque sense, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Brinson, it's all cosmetic stuff. I haven't played Overwatch in a while, but I think it's all cosmetic stuff, isn't it?
It's pretty much cosmetic stuff. Nothing in an Overwatch loot box is going to upgrade your character or whatever hero you want to play. It's pretty much a voice line you want your hero to say, an emote you want your hero to do, a spray you want your hero to spray, a golden gun if you've played enough competitive, a special skin through an event, or you just got lucky with a legendary skin out of a random loot box. Like that is what a loot box should be. And just to go back to what you were saying before, my only experience with Battlefront 2 is really all that what Nathan has played. So if there are people who are legitimately struggling, like, that's completely fine. Like, I completely 100% understand and validate everything that you're saying. At that point, I would rather just form my opinion more to 50-50. But my firm belief about what everybody complaining about is that it is bullshit. I think it is stupid that people are, forget DLC season passes, forget extra content. I bought a $60 game. I should be like, I spent $60. This is the content that I should be able to access.
Yes.
And I'm not being able to access it because you want me to spend an additional $5 to $20, if not more, dollars to access that content. How about no?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only beef that so Battlefront 2, I didn't really follow the whole pre-order thing. I knew that they were going to do something along those lines and have bonus stuff for people to acquire. The only beef that I probably had with the pre-order was because, and this is going to shape opinions in later stories, I did the Geek Parenting podcast with some new friends of ours, and I was able to talk about some of that stuff. And we actually got into the talk about if you did the pre-order, I think you got the Last Jedi skins for Rey and I think Kylo Ren. So you got Last Jedi skins. That was my only beef with it. That should not have been, because Last Jedi is the movie you're trying to advertise. If anything, you should have put the Force Awakens skins in that pre-order instead of that, because Last Jedi is what you're advertising right now. So I didn't understand that one, but that was really like my only beef with it. And then the beef that I had with the previous one, the console version where you were paying double, was simply based off the fact that you were paying for a season pass that had nothing in it. I mean, literally its first little pack of it, we didn't even get information until I think a week. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. It was like a week before the game released. So people were literally buying a season pass. They had no knowledge of anything in it. And I'm sorry, but if all you're looking at is thin air, then you don't spend money on it, kind of thing. That's my only beef with it.
That's why I don't buy season / because Nintendo calls them expansion passes. I don't buy season or expansion passes unless the company gives specific details. This is what you are to expect with this. This is what you are to expect with this. That's what they did with Breath of the Wild. Nintendo has been very transparent with that game. This is the game you're getting. This is the gameplay. This is what you get to do. This. I played over 90 hours of that game, felt everything they had stated, advertised, showed, etc., for all the years leading up to the game were exactly what I got. I bought like a collector's edition, so I spent close to $120 on the game, and that's just because I got a bunch of like cosmetic stuff that I can listen to a soundtrack in my car and anyway. The point I'm trying to make is I paid good money on top of the expansion pass for Breath of the Wild. I got what was advertised, and then they talked about the expansion pass, obviously, before the game came out. This is what Pack 1's going to have. This is what Pack 2 is going to have. These are the details we're going to share with you right now. This is what you're purchasing.
Yeah.
Transparent, straight to the point, specific. The end. And so I think that is a model that should be followed by all companies. I mean, I did the same.
Don't play the shady crap of not putting anything in that season pass. At least have a base explanation of what you're putting in there.
I mean, I did the same thing with Fallout 4 when that game was coming out. I didn't buy the season pass because Bethesda didn't say anything about the season pass. It's like, here's $30 extra. We're not going to tell you anything about our season pass. And I was like, no, how about I actually play the game? And then if it sounds interesting, then I'll do it. And I couldn't get through Fallout 4 far enough to be able to say $30 extra is worth it, because I was extremely disappointed by Fallout 4. But that's like not even anyway. So that is BS. I can't and I think they did that with Battlefront 1, didn't they? They kind of pulled some sort of shenanigan with that as well.
That's what I was explaining. So like for the $120 edition of Battlefront, which was the basic absolute collector's edition that you could get, you did get a bunch of cosmetic items that were said, but that gave you some, but all of that stuff came with like the digital deluxe. So you could get all of that. What the super bonus edition, I can't remember what it was actually called, but what that actually added was access to the season pass. And the season pass had nothing in it until literally about a month before the game released. And then they announced the Jakku map and I think a couple of other bonuses there, and stuff came down the line. What I'm saying is that remained blank for up to a year and a half, I think, where people were buying it, but they had no idea what was in that pass.
Oh my gosh. Anybody who's listening to the sound of my voice right now, whether it be somebody in North Korea somehow, or, somebody...
Don't do that. Romney's war is going to happen again.
Or somebody listening at this very second in time, do not, for the love of God, buy a season or expansion pass unless you know exactly what you're paying for.
Yes.
Like I don't care if you pre-order a game, but do not do that to yourself. It is bullshit. It's just companies trying to get more money out of your pocket, like your hard-earned money, and then half the time the content isn't even good enough. That's why, you know what, on top of that, that's probably why they don't even talk about what's going to come in that pass, because they don't even know what the hell they're putting into that pass. So they're making you spend an extra $30 for literally nothing. Use that $30 and save it towards another game. That's that's halfway to another game.
Exactly.
Like, this is going to be my new passion. Good Lord.
Alex has been Thanos again in his chair, waiting for chaos to erupt. So
I'm sorry, you shouldn't have let me speak first tonight.
Oh no, that's why, because at this point we needed to bring you up to speed on it, because people hadn't heard your opinions yet.
Well, luckily for most people, I had been keeping track of it thanks to my husband. So
yes,
so now you've got my opinions.
So Alex, with the whole stock situation, how do you take this? Is this good news? Is this bad news? How are you overall taking it?
Well, first of all, I want to read this comment I just saw on PC Gamer, where one of our articles comes from. It says, Greedo bought enough special edition loot boxes to get quick shot perk, but alas, he didn't grind hard enough to equip an aim assist. I love it.
All right, that was awesome.
So anyway, as for the stock thing, I really wish Romney was here, because I feel like he would have a bit more of a better sort of sense of whether this is a good or a bad thing. $3 billion, well, that sounds like a lot, but I always remember what I once heard Neil Gaiman say, like, and this was in regards to like funding a movie, basically, not really this, but it really put it in perspective to me, like what money is in the world. It's like, he said he made Mirror Mask for like about $1 million or so, and he said, yeah, $1 million is a lot of money if you find it in a suitcase by the road, but that's not really a lot for like making a movie, right?
No.
And so I feel like in terms of like $3 billion, yeah, that's a ton of money for me. But I gotta think, for a big multi-billion-dollar company like EA, I can't wonder if help. Like, it's just like, that's a quarterly loss. It's no big deal.
Really
so
yeah, it's.
I kind of feel like it may.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's probably not as big of a loss as it sounds, but I do wonder if there is ramifications of this, or if it is just business as usual. It's a loss, whatever, move on.
Normally it wouldn't be, because again, we're talking a company that's not worth billions. We're talking probably a company that's worth tens of, if not hundreds of billions of dollars. So this is basically a penny to them, a drop of a couple of dimes in the wallet kind of thing. And so it doesn't really affect things. The thing that can make it affect how business is done is that, like I said, I did hear rumors, I couldn't confirm them, of shareholders being upset. Now, shareholders, being that this is a publicly traded company, that could affect things, because shareholders, once you have enough shareholders leave a product, that's basically a vote of no confidence economically. So at that point, that could affect EA in the long run, just having that vote of no confidence. But again, it's rumors of rumbling. It's not actively hearing shareholders saying, no, this either has to change or I'm going to dump my shares of EA stock. Okay, that's what needs to happen, is for that to be a lot more concerning, because then at that point EA cracks down on DICE, or EA just cracks down on itself, kind of thing. So the thing you have to realize here is that this is basically a dent in the overall car that is EA, kind of thing. It's a good thing. It's a battle that we can win, but at the same time, we get, this is not a reason to stop fighting people. That's basically what I'm saying. If you continue to not like this stuff, don't support it. That's the best thing you can do, which is good, because going into the second story here, this is where it becomes important. So we thought that Battlefront 2's microtransaction and pay-to-win system was bad. We didn't know that it got worse. So UFC 3, which I think just barely opened up its beta, this is a very highly sought after game, has already launched its beta, and it's got that problem too, but worse. Now, we've had a statement come out from EA addressing the IGN articles and a couple of other news outlets that have addressed this, where it's only going to be related to one mode in the game. But that doesn't really matter because it's going to be a relevant mode that people are going to want to play, especially the multiplayer ones are, called Ultimate Team Mode. So basically the way to look at it is, you know, it's good that we've had Brinton, who kind of doesn't buy into the whole pay to win thing, because now we can actually look at this kind of justifiably. So right off the bat, Brinton, you don't necessarily think the pay to win mechanics are that entirely of a bad thing. What if they were jacked up on steroids? Because that's what's happening on UFC 3 right now.
Oh God, that is horrible.
So for example, an example that got brought up by a couple of YouTubers is the way that you can actually do things. EA is moving more and more towards a card system now. And I guess in this one, you can actually modify your fighter with these cards. And again, it's a random loot drop. So you basically gotta take a chance and see whether or not you get a good thing. But they had an example of like, so your basic attack in UFC could be a jab. And then at that point, you could get a card that is gives you a super powerful jab. So it basically makes your jab even more powerful than like the big roundhouse kicks that you could pull off. Somebody could get that right off the bat going into a pay-to-win scheme. And then at that point, they basically own everybody else, especially the people who have to work their butts off to be able to make this work. Except the problem is that now you have even more randomness being brought into that. So it's even more pay to win than Battlefront 2 is. I'm obviously not explaining it that well, but
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. At that point, if what we're saying is Battlefront 2 is bad, UFC is worse. So in fact, the sad reality here is EA is not learning their lesson. They're not.
No. I mean, clearly they're not. I guess maybe I didn't make myself super clear. Like, I don't super support pay to win.
Yeah.
Like,
sorry, I didn't mean to characterize it that way.
Oh no. You're fine. I must have. I was ranting about like two separate things at the same time, but I mean, like, pay to like the idea to pay to win is just a really, really dumb idea, because there are going to be people who are not going to spend extra money to get the super cool things, and there are going to be people who are going to pay the extra money to get the super cool things. And I guess the way that I kind of look at it is that those people who are going to be paying to win, after a while they could just potentially get bored enough of just pretty much owning everybody without having a real challenge, that you're just going to be like, this game is dumb and boring. But at the same time, the people who are working diligently and trying to get the best stuff without paying for the extra loot boxes and the extra like special like cards, they could even get to the point where they're like, this game is boring. I'm sick and tired of getting my ass whooped. So in the end, it's a lose-lose situation. Like, neither side is going to be happy, and the game is just going to implode on itself.
Well, the bottom line is that what I hope happens is that the UFC fans who are also Star Wars fans, they learn from this too. And they get the UFC fans to also react the way that the Star Wars fans did. I mean, the cool part about Battlefront 2 is that it wasn't just gamers that reacted. The Star Wars community itself reacted that same way too. And that was the way that things should have happened. Now we need to have that happen for UFC. We need to have multiple games under EA's watch having this problem and then stepping up and saying, no, we're not paying. I'm not saying don't buy in the microtransactions. If you want to make a statement here, people, you don't buy the game. You don't even do the beta test. You don't do anything along those lines. I've already seen a few people, because I think the beta is allowed to pre-orders. So I've already seen people turn in their pre-orders because all they see is a worse system being implemented by EA that is, dare I say, worse than what is already out. Well, it's not available right now, but it will be eventually for Battlefront 2.
The thing that comes to mind with me though is because Call of Duty World War II even kind of did a similar thing where there's like loot boxes and cards and like, like I mean it's a really really crappy loot box system, but I feel like almost that like CEOs of all these different companies like came together and they were just like, this is a really good idea, we should try it. It's like, why? Like,
well, and part of that actually we covered in a previous episode, but it's simply because of the budgets that these games have. You need to be able to make that money back, and in some cases, you're not going to be able to make that just from raw units. So at that point, it becomes a whole other problem. That's why they have to attach microtransaction systems so that EA can gain the profit that they're looking for.
I feel like the organization that was created to prevent like games that were supposed to be like AAA from sucking hardcore should be like audited and re-looked at. And
well, can we just take these AAA companies and actually determine whether or not they deserve the AAA brand?
Well, that's where I was getting to. I feel like there needs to be a better audit done on these games to fully determine, hey, you know what, per standard, we get that this may be a thing, this may be a trend that's going on, but we're paying attention to what gamers actually truly enjoy. And if you're needing to make money back by microtransactions, it sounds like you need to rethink your game. And if that means you have to start from scratch and make some changes and delay your game a year or two, you're just going to have to do it.
Yeah, or if you have to step up and add in a multiplayer feature, which doesn't really make sense into that game, then already that's another red flag too, because that's actually one of the things I think ultimately killed Mass Effect Andromeda too, is that they added in multiplayer, they added in a bunch of cash cow stuff that EA wanted, not necessarily what BioWare wanted, and that's why we had all of the issues that we did with Andromeda back when it came out. Just because we have to move things along, I'm not meaning to interrupt, but now we're actually kind of running a little low on time. Alex, what is your take on the whole UFC thing? If it's going to be worse, then is this what the UFC community needs to be doing?
Yeah, the UFC community needs to bite back as hard as Star Wars did. I'm actually surprised, even though it's a very small cave-in, basically, because they said they're still going to implement microtransactions later. Still, EA caved a little bit here, which surprised me. I'm really surprised the backlash led to anything, because I really figured, whatever, EA's not going to care, because the normies are all going to still go out and buy the game. But lo and behold, a little ripple happened. So UFC fans, if you don't like this, I'd say bite back. And here's cancel your orders. Don't join the beta. Don't buy the game.
Here's the other thing to consider there too, is that Star Wars is just a drop in the bucket. UFC is already going to involve the sports gamers, and that's really where the dent can happen. Is because if you start screwing around with one sports game, that means EA is probably going to screw around with the other sports games, and then you have a bigger fire on your hands. So that's
games are EA's bread and butter here. So
that's how you hurt them. Like the best way to be able to get your message across, you have to take the money from them. And the way that you take the money is you don't buy Madden. And that's their bread and butter right there. That's how they earn their money. So at that point, if you start affecting Madden, shareholders are going to get pissed. So moving on into the next story, because this is again connected to the microtransactions, but it's basically them trying to make excuses. So in a recent interview with EA Chief Financial Officer Blake Jorgensen, I think is how you actually say his name, addressing the loot box situation, this is what he had to say. And I'm just going to read it verbatim, and then we're going to go into it. The one thing we're very focused on, and they are extremely focused on, is not violating the canon of Star Wars. So what he's saying is this is the reason that things in Battlefront 2 ended up the way they were, is because they didn't want to violate the canon of Star Wars. It's an amazing brand that's been built over many, many years. And so if you did a bunch of cosmetic things, so specifically this interview is actually addressing why the loot boxes aren't more cosmetic, like say in games like Overwatch. It's an amazing brand that's been built over many, many years. And so if you did a bunch of cosmetic things, you might start to violate the canon, right? Darth Vader in white probably doesn't make sense versus in black. Not to mention you probably don't want Darth Vader in pink. No offense to pink, but I don't think that's in the right canon. Thank you, Blake Jorgensen.
What a load of shit.
Hold on. Thank you, Blake Jorgensen, for making, because of you, pink Darth Vader is a thing in Google Images.
Oh my gosh. What? Pink
Look it up.
It's true.
Vader.
I'm sure Darth Vader. I'm sure he didn't coin it, but he got people searching for them again. Okay, Alex, continue.
Yeah, what a load of shit, man. What a load of shit. Because just even the article points it out is that really, it's you have prequel era Darth Maul, and he can go up against Rey. Yoda can be on Starkiller Base. So, we don't want to violate the canon. Break, you've already done that. Plus, it's Battlefront. No one's worried about the canon.
The purpose of it is to break canon. That's what people were screaming for. They wanted Imperials versus the First Order. They wanted Imperials versus battle droids. They wanted Imperials versus the dang Republic.
Yeah, we just want by the way, more elements from said canon.
By the way, EA didn't provide. If you do the multiplayer for it, because I'm already reviewing this turd. We'll get to that in a while. But they basically restricted it, so you have to fight in the proper eras because it would violate canon otherwise. So if you're in prequel era, that's what you're fighting in. So if, let's just say for the sake of argument, if you want to play the trade, you don't want to play the Trade Federation, you want to play the First Order, you can't do that. You have to have Resistance versus First Order, Empire versus Rebellion, and Trade Federation versus Republic kind of thing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts on that. But you can have Darth Maul facing off against Rey.
Which is ridiculous. I mean, to be fair, obviously the original Battlefronts were like that, but time has changed. Time has progressed. I mean, we're talking a game over 10 years old now, and versus a game you're making now.
The way that they could have moved past pandemic here is make this a giant what if.
Yeah, and again, it's a free for all. It's basically Battlefront. It is your Star Wars equivalent to Super Smash Brothers. It's just there. It's there to have fun and fight Star Wars battles. That's what we like about it. We don't care about the story canon. We have the movies, or we have books, we have comics, we have we could even have standalone games if EA would ever bother to give any the light of day. But we have other means to explore canon in the sense.
Did you see the funnier part about this whole thing in his statement? Multiplayer is canon. That's basically what he's proposing. Multiplayer is canon. So basically EA is trying to be Vince McMahon here. Sorry guys. We just got word from on high. The Empire can't win the Battle of Hoth. I know it's a shock for everybody, but the Empire can't win. We just have to fall on our swords. That's what they're saying. Multiplayer is never canon because multiplayer is a giant what if.
Yeah. And I guarantee you can have the rebellion win the Battle of Hoth. Guarantee that will be a theme in this game.
Yeah, right? That's the cool part. Is anybody can win Theed, anybody can win Camino, or I don't know if I think Takodana was in there, so you can have them win. That's the beauty of this deal is that it's a giant what if scenario.
Imagine if Masahiro Sakurai said, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for Link to face off against Mario because they don't exist in the same universe. It's like, come on. This is
maybe Ed Boon just kind of sat there and went, I love my Mortal Kombat universe, but I'm never going to have them face off against Superman. What are you talking about? Or Capcom literally going, it doesn't make sense for Ryu to be facing off against Wolverine, does it?
What's the point of games like these are to have fun and explore weird impossibilities. We have all the other sources for our main story canon. This is, like I said, Battlefront. It's your Super Smash Brothers for Star Wars.
The only thing about this that should be canon is the story mode, which we have confirmed is canon, which is really disappointing because I've already made my way through a good portion of that. And it's not, spoiler alert, it's not very good. You guys will see that in the full-on review. But the other part that makes this a little frustrating is, as we can see, Brinton's still looking at Pink Darth Vader, which is awesome. But remember I brought up that I did an episode with the Geek Parenting podcast. One of the things that we brought up was the heroes. The most interesting aspect about Battlefront, or at least the EA Battlefront, is the hero option. So you can actually have numerous heroes from various eras being able to contend with each other. You can have Yoda versus Darth Vader. You can have the Emperor versus Luke Skywalker. You can have, or even better, the Emperor versus Kylo Ren kind of thing. You can have these things happen, and that's amazing. That's a great thing to be able to do. But when you have this whole not canon of Star Wars thing, that's absolutely stupid. And here's why. One of the things that we brought up in the Geek Parenting podcast that we wanted to see happen is that multiplayer isn't canon, which means heroes are go nuts with the heroes. Okay. Have fun with it. I want a New Hope Luke Skywalker. I want Kanan Jarrus. I want Ezra Bridger. I want Sabine with the Darksaber. Go into Rebels, go into Clone Wars, the series, go nuts. I want to see all. I don't even care that the animation clashes. I don't care that it doesn't look good in our high definition environment. It doesn't matter. It's a giant what if scenario. That's what it is. Kanan Jarrus against Yoda. That would be an awesome thing to have happen. The Grand Inquisitor taking on the Emperor. That would be even better. And it's not like you couldn't pay the voice actors to come in and voice the damn roles. So at that point, what you're basically saying is that because of the canon, we weren't able to make the game that we wanted to make. Well, then maybe you ought to hand that over to somebody else. I'm good now.
Amen.
Hashtag pink is for Sith.
You know what? I want to start a movement right here and now. If Alex can do it with Nintendo making a space shuttle, I'm doing it right now. I want hashtag pink Darth Vader sent to EA in droves.
Oh, but Nintendo did make a space shuttle. You shuttle it around in your backpack.
Well, then it worked, didn't it?
Hashtag
pink
Nintendo
Darth
shuttle.
Vader everywhere. Just to stick it to EA. So at that, I promise I'll get off my soapbox here. I didn't mean to yell at you guys, but that's my biggest problem with all of this. All of the excuses that EA is tossing out here. They're just digging their hole even deeper at this point.
I know I was pretty distracted with Pink Darth Vader. I'll be completely honest.
It's all right. It's very distracting.
But I mean, I was listening to. I was still listening. Despite my distraction, and I just completely agree with everything you guys said. Those are some pretty poor excuses, in my opinion. So, yeah, I just don't even know what to say.
I mean, the best way to be able to look at this, and you would agree with me on this one, Brenton, is that Battlefront is the equivalent of Heroes of the Storm here.
Yeah, that's a really, really good comparison.
Yeah, because at that point, it's a giant what if scenario. And at that point, you have fun with it. We keep on hearing that DICE is dedicated Star Wars fans, and they've had access to Star Wars stuff that nobody's ever seen. Well, then go nuts with it. Because at that point, you could bring in characters, or even better, like maybe even open it up to the community, and they'll start bringing in some expanded universe characters that nobody even considered. I'd love to see like somebody come up with a Kyle Katarn skin. Because why not? Kyle Katarn is part of the expanded universe and people love him. We already had Dave Filoni make Grand Admiral Thrawn a literal canon character at this point. Because I believe, to my knowledge, Dave Filoni's Rebels is canon. I don't think Clone Wars is, but I think he got the approval for Rebels to be canon. So at that point, Grand Admiral Thrawn, the most popular expanded universe character, is in that series, which means he's canon. And already there are customizable troopers. Like you can have, I think they confirmed like up to 10 races as your trooper, as your rebel. So why couldn't you do stuff like this? It's a giant what if scenario. So just go nuts. Because all I have to do is bring it up this way, and I promise I'll get off my soapbox again. But Alex, one of the things you love about Battlefront is Galactic Assault. Wouldn't it be awesome to have Galactic Assault, but you pick your faction? Like you pick the Republic. You probably pick like the Empire or the Rebellion, but I'm saying you pick the Republic, and you go to one world, and it's Starkiller Base, and you are actually facing off against the First Order. And then you go to another world, and it's Empire. Or you could even go to a world where a civil war's actually has flared up, and you kind of take advantage of the situation. That's what you can do in these kinds of scenarios. The possibilities it's like Diablo. It's freaking endless.
It's endless. I love that.
Yeah. Or you can even come up with scenarios where Kylo Ren is leading the Separatists. Why not?
Sure.
Kind of thing. So
Battlefront 2, the original Battlefront 2 on PlayStation 2. I like to play all eras, but I never really liked playing the droids. I liked the clone troopers fine. I liked the Empire and Rebellion fine, but man, I never could get behind the battle droids for some reason. But yeah. I love the idea of like I could play like with clone troopers and play like stormtroopers. Although that might get a little too confusing. You'd have to really be.
But I mean, you could easily customize them enough that you could have a difference. But anyway, so unfortunately, we're running out of time. So we do have a couple of other stories to get into. And again, leave us you guys' comments on the YouTube stuff, on the EA stuff. I would love to hear from you guys on these situations because it just gets worse and worse on those matters. So the next story that we're actually talking about is kind of dealing with microtransactions again, but this is more of a warning story. So Kotaku actually met up with a 19-year-old man who has openly admitted he has spent more than $13,000 in microtransactions and has admitted he is like openly addicted to in-game stores this way. So he basically what this article is, guys, is a giant warning for those who dip into the microtransactions because it only gets worse from there. Once you dip into those just once, sorry, I just barely saw in our live chat somebody actually wanted Jar Jar Binks as a hero character.
Why not?
Why not? There are people who like Jar Jar Binks, believe it or not.
There are of course also those crazy. There's also those crazy theories about him being a secret Sith Lord.
That is true.
I'm not buying him. Move on. You guys can buy him. I don't care. I'm not buying him. Anyway, so back into the story. So we already have like this big warning of what microtransactions can eventually do in this case. So I'm just going to go ahead and read some of this, but I'm not going to read too much off of the article. Let's see. Yeah, he's 19 and he's addicted to gambling. He doesn't necessarily give his real name in here, but he posted in a letter that yes, he has gone over $13,500 and invested into games like Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Smite, and the Hobbit Kingdoms of Middle-earth. And initially, all of this started from a game that he played when he was only 13. He doesn't remember the name of it, but it sounds it's very similar to Clash of Clans. He spent $30 on that thing in microtransactions, and now he's all the way up into the 10,000 mark. And as he goes on to admit later on in the story, like this is money that could have gone somewhere else, and unfortunately, it's left him in a difficult spot. So this is basically a giant warning story for those who are considering buying into this stuff. Here's a good quote. It never feels like you're making a good decision when you spend that $100. But at the time I was like, what else am I going to spend it on? That's literally the justification that happens from that whole process. It's not good. But I just want to get into you guys' opinion on that matter. Like, dude, there are people who have spent $10,000+ on microtransactions. Holy crap.
Well,
I already saw the horror stories of like the kids buying $17,000 for the stuff.
I mean, this is a post from Reddit, so I don't want to say it's not necessarily true. It's just, there's no way to really confirm or deny the validity of this alleged letter here. But I can, whether it's a fabricated cautionary tale or not, I think the point is the same, though, is that, without being careful, someone could very well go down this path with loot boxes, because, I mean, anything by nature, I feel like, can definitely be addictive. And loot boxes are no different. I mean, loot boxes are essentially a form of gambling, whether we want to say it or not. So this is why it does pay to be mindful of these things.
Yep. Brenton, any thoughts on this particular story?
Oh, I completely agree with Alex. I know like the first full year of Overwatch events, Nathan and I had a pretty bad tendency to spend a lot of money to get as many loot boxes as we could so that we didn't have to play through the event material just to get the cosmetics that we wanted. And I mean, yeah, we got what we wanted, but it's not like I play Overwatch a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But just think if like they put because I remember you were very excited when Sombra hit. What if they put Sombra behind a loot box? I mean that already would be a problem, wouldn't it?
My gosh, with how much fun I had playing her at BlizzCon last year, and I play her from time to time, just because I've been taking on more support roles in Blizzard games. Man, I'm thinking about like the most current hero. If they put like Moira behind a loot box, like I don't know. I just don't even like the sound of that because Overwatch loot boxes already are so finicky with what you can get. Like a good 90% of the time, I'm just getting duplicate sprays and voice lines. And so the probability, like I can already, because in Heroes of the Storm, all their new heroes are legendary heroes. So if they were to lock new heroes in Overwatch behind loot boxes, they're more than likely going to be legendary themselves. And legendary drops are very far and few in between. So I can't even imagine like how much Overwatch I would play just to get lucky enough to get a legendary. And then, you know, what if that legendary is just a skin?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things where I think microtransactions are both a very heavy temptation for both the player as well as for the developer, because then it's one of those things where I've seen companies use microtransactions wisely, especially like a lot of mobile developers will use it fairly wisely. But then you also have companies like Blizzard who do it fairly right, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about the updated Heroes of the Storm, but from what I understand, it's mostly cosmetic, that you still have to pay for the heroes, especially if they're brand spanking new. So at that point, that's how that should go, because here's the thing, like, I'm not going to spend however much money it would take to buy every single hero. They're going to be heroes I don't care about. But having the skins as something in a loot box is a lot more worthwhile, in my opinion, than putting in crafting resources for guns or putting guns in there, period.
So like what I've seen with Heroes of the Storm, just because with how much Nathan plays and just how active he is with that game, it's pretty easy for him to be able to like get a new hero as it drops, because Blizzard actually, when the new hero does come out, they the amount of, I believe it is gems you need to buy the hero, they discount right away for a it's not even a short period of time. It's actually a considerable period of time. Like I'm like it's, I think it's 40% off like a specific amount of gems to get Alexstrasza, and then when they release Hanzo, I'm sure that will just be applied to Hanzo, and then Alexstrasza will be the legendary amount of gems you need to purchase her. But they make it pretty simple to where like they just make it simple. But that's based on how much one person plays, and Nathan is that type of person who plays it enough that he doesn't even need to spend, he doesn't even need to contribute to the microtransactions in order to get enough gems in order to buy the hero. He just has enough because of his gameplay.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that doesn't apply to those like you and I who don't play it as much. Because I mean, there are days where I'm like, I really, really, really want to like, because like I've been trying to get back into it a little bit again, but I always kind of get hung up because I'm just like, but I feel bad because I don't want like Nathan and my brother-in-law to have to play with someone who's only like level 6 and they're like over level 600. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to have to force them to make me have to play AI with me or play with people that are under their skill level. So I just never end up playing. But I did like actually end up getting Ana, but I had to pay for extra gems so that I could get Ana because I don't play the game enough to have enough gems to get Ana.
but at that point, I mean, you've already kind of answered my deal is like you wanted Ana and therefore you bought her kind of thing. But
Yeah.
the awesome part here is that with heroes, you can skip heroes that you don't necessarily want. Like I like Alexei Stukov. I'm a StarCraft fan. I don't necessarily need to buy him in heroes because I just don't see myself playing as that character. I would rather put that money towards somebody like Jaina, who I know I'm going to play as, kind of thing. And
for
so,
the Horde.
Yeah. Okay, Kael'thas then. Well, no, he would be a villain too. Thrall, fine. Okay, there we go. But you have people who are utilizing them properly, and then you have cases where it's like EA or it's like the spammy developers that we're finding out about on Steam and other platforms that are just there to make money and just kind of abuse the people who are going to buy into those games, and that's the sad reality there. So it's definitely a temptation for those who are actually going to take it on, but it's just like with any major problem, you have to do things in moderation, and in a lot of cases you just have to look at ways outside of money to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because again, we're actually running out of time, and we do have a couple other stories to get into. And the next one is actually what we were referring to with YouTube, is that YouTube might actually have some viable competition now. So if you guys want, and again, if I'm going through these stories too fast, you can reach out to us on Twitter and get our opinions on it. It's not like we shoo you guys away, and we'll give you guys that at the end. But YouTube has a competitor in the fact that there is somebody, or there is a social media outlet that does more than YouTube, and that would be Facebook. And now Facebook is looking into creator content videos. At least they're looking into the possibility of having that stuff on their channel. They're actually going to look to make video apps for it. A lot of people are basically taking this as Facebook is entering the video business. And frankly, if there was actually a company that could take YouTube on, well, Amazon could do it, but and Amazon owns Twitch, but Twitch is kind of a smaller arm of Amazon, and I don't know if they would actually full on invest to be able to take YouTube down. Facebook, however, is a whole other monster. Because unlike YouTube, they do have the solid numbers, and they do have the solid advertisers, and they do have all of the stuff in place that YouTube should have right now. So if they did actually, and again, I think this is an early beta. Some people have access to this, but we don't. If they actually pulled this off, I gotta say, Facebook actually might make me look into putting videos on Facebook. Because I can already tell you, like, don't get me wrong, I share videos on Twitter and I share videos on a couple of other social media platforms, but I can guarantee you I hit Facebook every day. And I have no problem hitting Facebook every day. Twitter is a whole other story. I try to hit that as often as I can, but Facebook is the guarantee. I always like hitting Facebook. And if they actually gave me a video app where I could just put my videos, my podcasts all up there, I would definitely consider migrating over from YouTube to Facebook. I've actually even considered using Facebook Live a couple of times for Q&A sessions, kind of thing. So it's definitely something that we could look into. But right now, this is basically speculation. This is them testing the waters. They're putting in out a video app to see if people are interested enough that they can make this work. And so I'm just going to go ahead and ask for the Facebook Kids channel. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? They'd probably run the kid content better. So I'm going to go ahead and reach out to the other YouTube content creators right here and now, especially in the chat. Like, what is your take on this? If Facebook actually got involved, could they actually beat YouTube? Would you migrate over to the service?
I would have to I'd have to see it for myself first, honestly, and experiment with the platform a little bit. Some of the videos that I would probably upload would be private for the most part, just so that I could see it from a content creator and a viewer point of view, so two different points of view. But as so that would be my take on whether or not I would migrate over. I would have to experiment with it a little bit, and then essentially put up a video on YouTube saying I'm leaving what I have here, but I'm migrating over to Facebook and using their platform. So if that is a place where you want to continue viewing me, that's where it's all going. I am done, I've had my fun with YouTube. I did the gamers for a year. I've been on it now for a couple years as Brinton Volley Gaming. I'm now migrating Brinton Volley Gaming to Facebook, etc. That would be my take on it after my experimentation and how I like the platform. In terms of whether or not it would be big enough to take down YouTube, that's that's hard. That's hard to say.
It is because again, it also depends on the commitment that Facebook has. Like again, Amazon could do it. Like they honestly had the money behind them to be able to make that work, especially with how they were going to do Twitch. But they instead kind of took Twitch in as kind of a arm of what they do, instead of saying, no, we are actually going to contend with YouTube and we're going to make this work. Because I can already guarantee you, if they actually made it so that I like Twitch, don't get me wrong, but if Twitch actually made it so that I could archive episodes properly and I could like put up series, that would be a selling point and a half for me. I'd migrate over to Twitch in an instant. And one of the reasons I don't necessarily do that is because I like live streaming, but it's not something that I want to do on a regular basis, not with all of the other content that I provide. If Facebook offers this, it's definitely one of those things. I actually was looking into VidMe when the whole YouTube Kids thing happened, and unfortunately it looks like VidMe is going to fold. The sad reality is like I could have looked at that and said, well, YouTube's going to shut down in like 1 to 2 years. I probably better put myself on VidMe or somewhere else so that there are other places to access my stuff. And so this actually has me legitimately interested. I want to see what actually comes out of it. Maybe even test like a series or two on there. Maybe even test like a live Q&A on there and see how it works. Because right now, one of the biggest concerns I have, especially with this article, is it looks like they're moving more towards streaming. Okay, so that would be more of a contender to Twitch. And at this point, again, Facebook could do it, but I'm not looking for a streaming service. I'm looking for a place to be able to put my content. And that's where I would have the hang up. But I definitely think that it's a viable contender if it plays into the right ways. What about you, Alex? Like, is this something that you will look into as a content creator?
Yeah, I will look into it because certainly I'm concerned about where YouTube is going in the future after 2017. It's been such a crappy year. We'll have to see if they can bounce back from this. And if anybody, Facebook would be the one to contend. I mean, there's a lot of video sites out there, but few have the resources and already the attraction that Facebook has. Facebook still probably is the largest social networking site.
I did see a graph, and yes, they beat YouTube by quite a number.
Yeah, I mean, and Twitter has stagnated in growth this year, so it's not likely Twitter's ever going to be a viable contender. VidMe was, with what's going on with VidMe, obviously that was a small service, and unfortunately, just that's the thing. Making these video sites is hard. And you need somebody with deep pockets and a lot of resources to do it, and Facebook would be the one to do it.
Well, to VidMe's credit, it was run by Reddit, so at that point it could have been a big thing, because I do know of a lot of gamers and gaming community members that do run off of Reddit, so they could have actually been a contender. But again, it just depends on the money there. But this is kind of the same thing that we could say about Facebook too, is Facebook could have that following.
Yeah. And I would definitely want to look into this. I definitely want to see where this goes. I hope that they don't just become another streaming service, because I feel like Twitch has already kind of got the beat on that, and mine never really took off. So I feel like if YouTube wants to really look into video services, don't be exclusively streaming. Nothing wrong with having streaming services, but I don't think you can compete with Twitch at this point.
Yeah, episodic content, I think, is another thing that needs to be there. I have a feeling Facebook would probably be pretty strict, but from what I'm reading in this article, it looks to me like they actually would work with community members. They actually would have like a community team to work with people, which is the biggest problem we've had with YouTube, is YouTube doesn't really invest in that stuff. So I can already tell you, like, just from my perspective, I'd probably keep my YouTube videos there. But if Facebook turned out to be more of a view getter, so to speak, then maybe what would happen there is that it, like, for the first month, the videos would be accessible only on Facebook to that loyal audience, and then eventually it would make its way to YouTube. I'm just spitballing here. I haven't actually done the numbers in my head, but yeah, that would be what it would work out to be, especially if I could actually get some kind of revenue out of Facebook, because being that, you know, I'm a small YouTuber, I can't necessarily get that, and I don't think I'll ever get the guarantee from YouTube, given the way things are going. But yeah, it's definitely something that I think all of us are going to be keeping track of, and we will be updating as we go along. I would have also liked to have gotten Stephen Romney on that, but we'll get his opinion later. So the next story that we're going to get into actually officially starts up the entertainment portion of the evening, but it's kind of short, so don't worry too much about that, guys. The story that we're covering is the fact that, I guess, after Justice League has come out, and unfortunately to not a bad reception, but definitely not what Warner Brothers expected to happen, they are actually looking at extended cut for Justice League already, and in turn are actually shooting new material, supposedly, for this Justice League extended cut.
Okay, I'm just gonna say right now, I'm no, nope, I can't, I cannot. Are you kidding me? I haven't seen
so shall we take this as your opinion of Justice League?
I haven't seen Justice League yet, but all I have seen is that it's just not good. And if there's going to be another, like, if this is another Batman versus Superman like deluxe, whatever they called it, where they had like an extra hour of footage slapped onto the film, etc., 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 it's not going to make it any better. Like, well, I feel like this is the same thing they're doing with Batman versus Superman to make up for.
Well, especially considering that I think around that time they did shoot additional stuff for the BVS extended cut. So this is probably them doing the same stuff. I'm not necessarily going to say it's in the same ballpark, because I didn't actually walk out of Justice League and hate it. I know a lot of people who had issues with it. I've had talks with friends and family that have been divisive as far as Justice League is concerned. And look, there are reasons to be able to do that. I would actually dare say, without spoiling, like the first 20 minutes, yeah, it's aftermath of BVS. It is, and you just got to get used to that. It's clearly it's Snyder's shooting and all that stuff, but it does get better. I mean, me and Alex did a vlog for Justice League, and we both were happily surprised that it wasn't as bad as we thought we were walking into it. It does get a little bit better. Do I think it justifies like going in and shooting? Because they already admit in the article that we've got that Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill have been brought in to film new stuff. Does it justify that? I don't think so. I would like to see extended scenes on the matter. I would love to see like a Zack Snyder cut and maybe like a Joss Whedon cut, but I don't know if it necessarily justifies going and doing reshoots. Because again, this movie didn't even hit its projected amounts.
It's weird to me, because I've never really heard of a movie being released and then they come back and say we're shooting more. It's like, yeah. Shooting more what? You've already edited, like, the movie is in theaters. You've released it to the public. What, like, I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
And film reshoots do happen, but usually they're just, you know, like months after, and they're used to basically tell a scene differently. I have heard at least one or two cases where it did happen, and they did it for extended scenes, but I think that was more along the lines of actually trying to show like more editing from a making of standpoint. That's not what's happening here. This is they're shooting new scenes for an extended cut that isn't out yet. And frankly, Justice League is still in theaters.
And that's just the part that doesn't make sense to me. Like, that should have been stuff that should have already been taken care of. It's kind of like an afterthought, something like post production.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the possible shots that we have here, I mean, already it looks like it's going to be more aftermath stuff. if that makes any sense. It's just going to be aftermath stuff after the stuff that happens in what we know of in the film. So I don't know if that's necessarily going to be what I want out of the matter. Like if we had a little bit more of a focus on the Flash, I'd be okay with that. But yeah, I don't know. This just seems really, really weird to me. Alex, where are you standing on it? Like, I would have been all for like a full on extended cut and seen everything that was shot, but the fact that they're going in and doing new stuff, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
I know there's been some demand for like a Zack Snyder cut of the movie to kind of see what Joss Whedon maybe had kind of wrinkled out of Snyder's hands, but really going back and shooting extra new footage at a movie that's already projected at a loss, Warner Brothers, you are out of your damn minds at this point. You're throwing money at a problem that you think is going to make it better. It's not.
And already we're talking about a movie that I believe in its opening week it earned $96 million, which was $14 million below its projected earnings for first weekend. I think it's been able to hold its own for the next few weeks. We haven't had that 60% dive like we did with BVS, but that's still not enough there. It's still below what was expected.
Yeah, and it's lost money. I get it. You want to keep this fragile little not cinematic universe that you've built over 3 flimsy films already together, but you're throwing more money at a problem that you can't solve here. And by going back and completely adding more to your finished product, again, that's already projected at a loss, you're just shooting yourselves in the foot more and you're digging yourselves a deeper hole. The better solution is here. Move on already. You already have Suicide Squad 2 because the first one made money, and you already have, I mean, you can't even get your Batman movie together because you can't seem to lock down Ben Affleck for more than 5 minutes. Excuse me. The voice is going out.
The Flash movie fell apart.
Gal Gadot may not even return for Wonder Woman 2.
Yeah, I think they've actually confirmed she will. I think they worked out the problems she had.
Well, I hope so because.
Okay. Well, she's still got concerns if Brett Ratner's Rat Pack is still going to be financing the film. So you can't even keep your profitable films in order here, and you're already throwing more money at a movie that's at a lost cause at this point. You know, it's just what is going through your mind. Also, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think when they keep releasing these extended cuts, I can't help but think that's kind of hurting some of the theatrical performance, or at least partly. I know there's other factors at play here, but I think that's kind of hurting the theatrical performances because, you know, there are a lot of people who said, look, Batman v Superman was way better in its full-length extended R-rated cut. Fine.
I think,
there are probably people.
I think Brinton and Aldo would have had issues with that.
Yeah, I know, but there are people who do think that.
Well, yes, there are people who do think that. I don't think it made the film better. I think it just gave the film more sense and made things.
Yeah.
And made like points in the plot make more sense. But it definitely, that extended cut did not make the movie better, and it definitely did not make the movie like R-rated. I literally still to this day don't know how the extended cut is rated R, but that's just me.
Yeah, you know, it's just, I feel like you're alienating would-be moviegoers who might actually be liking these just enough, but they're going to say, why bother go see it in theaters? I'm going to get the half-assed cut version. Let me just wait for a while for it to come on Blu-ray when I'm going to get the full version here. You know,
I know. And like another thing that also kind of makes me mad, it's like 2 things that just came to mind. One is the comment that you just made, Alex, about, I can just wait till like, you know, Blu-ray, Redbox, possible Netflix. Like, movies are expensive, and I don't understand why there isn't, again, some sort of like auditory power just like sweeping Hollywood where somebody can come in, take a look what the work is doing, and they're able to say, people are spending $10 are going to spend $10 to see this or more. do on whether somebody's buying tickets for a whole group of people, and this is what you're going to put out. Yeah. I don't think so. This is not acceptable. This needs to be fixed. Because at that point, I'm not spending $10 to see it. I'm going to spend $1 from Redbox to see it. Because at that point, that's what it's worth. And then another thing that came to mind that I'm just going to mention really quick, and I think this is just because I'm a Marvel fan, and the Infinity War trailer just barely came out. And
don't spoil, please.
I'm not spoiling anything about that trailer.
Please don't, because I'm actually going to wait until I see it in theaters. I've just decided, you know what? That's a big enough trailer I want to see on the big screen. I don't want to see it on YouTube.
Oh, no, fair enough. I'm not going to spoil anything from the trailer, but the thing I wanted to say is, as a Marvel fan, I get excited about new Marvel films because the quality is there. Think about the DC comic fans who fanboy or fangirl over their there's going to be a DC comic cinematic universe. How much they must have fanboyed and fangirled over it, and then they go and they get crap quality. And it's like, well, Marvel gets this. Why are we getting this? Like, where's our quality? Why do we not get special treatment? And Marvel gets to be under the magical spotlight where everything is perfect. I just all of a sudden, I just started to get this massive amount of empathy for these fans because it's not fair to them. They're spending $10 to see a poor quality film on superheroes and stories that they cherish.
The heroes that they loved, the heroes that they grew up with.
Exactly. And it's not getting the same treatment like Marvel is. And that's just not fair. It's BS.
I will say, to Warner Brothers' credit, I mean, BVS was horrible. I'll say that. I have no problem saying it. I will say, to their credit, though, Wonder Woman was great. But a part of that is also just because there was a director other than Zack Snyder in the helm, even though he was, what was it, Alex? A co-writer? He was a co-writer on Wonder Woman?
I think he was only producer.
So he was a producer on Wonder Woman.
I don't know if he actually did have a hand in the story, but I'm going to double check.
Yeah, so at that point, I mean, Wonder Woman was fairly good, and I will say that Justice League is better than, I mean, it's far better than BVS as far as I'm concerned. If I were to give you a choice, I mean, I definitely point you towards Justice League than Batman versus Superman, and the simple reason being that they finally kind of got their act together, so to speak. I mean, for crying out loud, I actually was able to confirm this, and Alex is going to get a little mad at me, but I have an apology for Zack Snyder to make. I got to eat some crow. He actually...
Whoa, what?
Yes. What? I'm not going to spoil it for you, Brenton, but this is something you might want to look into. There was a scene involving Wonder Woman that was, put simply, very badass. And both me and Alex, when we walked out and we did our vlog, we thought that had to have been a Joss Whedon reshoot. Turns out it was not changed from the Zack Snyder cut.
I kind of figured it was Snyder's handiwork just because the way the editing style was. So, and I did double check on Wonder Woman. The screenplay was by Alan Heinberg, but yeah, Zack Snyder, Alan Heinberg, and Jason Fuchs also did the initial story outline. So Snyder also partly wrote, and he did produce Wonder Woman.
Yeah, so I do owe a little bit of an apology to Zach, because I actually found out a lot of the major scenes that I liked from Justice League were not Joss Whedon reshoots. They were original Zack Snyder designed shots. So at that point, I mean, in fact, one of the things I found funny was when we actually looked at the list, some of the scenes that I didn't like were responsible from Joss Whedon. So at that point, yeah, I've got a little bit of crow to eat. Zach pulled it off. He actually pulled off Justice League, and it worked. And he didn't do it in its dark and gray and brown. He did it in a nice, colorful form. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but hey, you got something right.
Well, I mean, I do plan on watching Justice League eventually. It won't be in theaters, unfortunately. And because I also still have to see Thor, which won't be in theaters either as well. But I don't know. I went and watched I went and saw Suicide Squad, and I thought that was pretty good. And then I adored Wonder Woman. So
yes, and that's the thing is like Zach was the producer on that. So at that point, I mean, gotta hand him a little bit of credit.
Wonder Woman was so freaking good. Oh my gosh, I want to watch that movie again. Anyway,
I love the people that had the problem with David Thewlis as Ares, and I laugh at the people who had the problem because it's like I can understand your viewpoint, but yeah, I don't want to spoil it just in case the audience that we have here has not seen Wonder Woman yet. But I think that kind of wraps up the story that we do have. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this extended cut. I have worries about it, but I guess we'll see it when we see it. And let's go ahead and wrap things up with the last story we have, which is another warning that goes out to people is that when you're in a relationship and it goes south, don't steal their shit because it ends badly for you. As it did with a woman, an unemployed woman in Akashi, who allegedly stole her boyfriend's anime DVDs for approximately about 90,000 yen or roughly $800 worth. And this guy actually had some pretty decent stuff, guys. He had unopened box sets for things like Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha, Full Metal Alchemist. I'm guessing that's the 2003 version. Sora no Mani Mani, Darker Than Black, Android Kikaider, and True Tears. So this guy had a pretty prominent collection, and when the relationship went south, the funniest part about this whole thing is that the woman actually threatened to take the DVDs from him, and they were still a couple at that point. And the guy should have taken that as a warning and said, get to stepping, because the way that they're in a relationship is she had nowhere to go, and he let her live with him. So if you're already going to threaten to steal someone's property and that's your situation, get to stepping, because you can live somewhere else. But unfortunately, this guy didn't do that. And in turn, she made good on her promise. She stole them. And it gets worse because unfortunately, he lost out on a lot of money because eventually the box sets were found. Remember, they were unopened. They were found at a local market and they were in fact opened. So that devalued a lot of the DVDs that he had. So I can already guarantee you he's probably not getting the 800 back, but he has already filed charges on her and is looking to take her to court. So just guys, fellow geeks, I need to have a minute with you. If someone in a I don't care what kind of relationship it's in, if someone threatens to steal your crap, they're probably not going to be a keeper. Just saying. So at that point, especially if they're in a bad spot and you, out of the kindness of your heart, bring them into your home. Because then at that point, it's probably not a good idea to keep them there, as they've already made the threat. They'll probably make good on it. Alex, you've been kind of moving in your chair there. Is there something I'm getting wrong about this?
No, everything's you pretty much summed everything up perfectly.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the other thing that is concerning is that the unemployed woman was 23. The guy was 49.
What the hell?
Yes.
Ooh, May December romance.
Yes. So they did clarify that the woman involved in the case did quit her job and was expelled from her previous housing. He then allowed her to live with him as a favor. I don't want to know what that favor was.
You know exactly what that favor was.
I don't want to, though.
You do, though. Don't admit it, Adam. You know exactly what it was.
I know exactly what it was. I don't want to know that. I don't want to imagine that. So
Adam, as soon as he said he was 49 and she was 23, the situation became extremely obvious.
I'm totally with you, but the first thing that came to mind when I read the story was yeah. But it's like I don't want to picture that in my head.
Well, I apparently am just like So I'm apparently swimming around in the gutter with Pennywise because that's where I straight went to. So
I mean, it's hard not to go there, but I mean, common sense here, people, is if the person's already threatening to steal your stuff if she doesn't like how things are going, it's probably a good idea to just, drop her like a bad habit, or in other cases, drop him like a bad habit kind of thing. Because that's probably not a good environment for that person to be in, especially if she's already quit a job and is already hurting for money. That's going to look really tempting after a while, especially when you have collectibles like unopened box sets of anime. And I could easily see this going any other way other than, or I could see this going with jewelry. I could see this going with expensive cars. Yeah. No, just don't do it. Just get her out of there. And she actually did. The best part is like when a detective actually pointed out the inconsistencies in the story she told him, because she actually did admit she previously threatened to take the DVDs. She did confess to stealing them and reselling them. She took pride. You could tell she just took pride in that. Like, yeah, I stole them from the idiot. Well, hate to say it, it's kind of bombed both of you.
Well, I guess it's a huge lesson learned for him, and well, good luck to her because there's no way that the court is going to rule in her favor. Like, I'm sorry, if that were me sitting there and the evidence is all stacked against her, it's like I'm sorry, girl, but like it sounds like you need to take a good evaluation of your life and make some better life choices.
The good news is that she didn't get the entire collection because, as the story does actually say, he did have anime in a separate room. So his full collection was not affected, but I would think that the unopened box sets would be in said room, not necessarily the ones that weren't unopened or that were open. And so maybe that's also a thing on you, dude, is that you needed to basically put your entire collection in the closet that it was in or wherever it was. Like if you had a safe room, that's where your collection needed to be.
That's like, yeah, but that man.
Well, we are talking about. Yeah,
sorry,
we're talking about probably a Japanese apartment here, so it's only going to be so big. But yeah,
that's just rough. It's quite amazing. I feel bad for the guy. I mean, he did something hella stupid, but I still feel super bad. I mean, my collectible stuff is open, so I mean, I can't really sympathize or empathize too much on a large scale as him. But I mean, somebody like Alex who maybe does have some unopened sets, because he's our anime guy. He probably has collectibles and things that are really dear to him. I'm sure he would be devastated if that stuff was stolen or lost in some capacity. And like that would hurt because that stuff costs money that Alex rightfully earns, works for, so that he can have those nice things because those are the things he likes.
The other thing, though, I would also point out, at least in this situation, is this is we're only getting part of the story here. I can't help but wonder if there weren't a couple of other warning flags with this girl before then, not just the outright threat to steal his DVDs kind of thing. I wonder if there were other incidences that were involved. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, because we're picking on Alex in this particular scenario, if he actually was involved with a girl that started threatening that stuff, I honestly think that me and my wife would have to have a sit down with him and say, you need to drop her like a bad habit because she's already because at that point there are other things pointing to me that she's making his life a living hell. So at that point, he's like, are you enjoying this relationship, Alex? No? Then you need to drop her like a bad habit. I mean, Alex, I love you and all, but, just because you get certain benefits out of that relationship doesn't mean that you get to be abused, so to speak.
Right.
I really shouldn't have used the term abused, damn it. Because then we just go back to the whole 2349 thing, and
so it sounds like we have reached the end of our show.
Yes. So, final thoughts on this, roughly. Yeah, just be careful with your relationships, guys.
Yeah, I've already made my final thoughts. Alex, don't do the hoe. Moving on.
I think we just found our episode title. Alex, don't do the hoe. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up for the evening. First of all, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us this evening for the podcast. I know that we were not here for Thanksgiving, and as this year kind of draws to a close, we actually are coming up on the anniversary of Geek News joining YouTube, at least for the live for the live recordings. And so that's awesome to be able to have both old and new subscribers be able to join us on what is on some evenings can be very, very interesting. But really quick before we start wrapping things up and getting into contact information, I will say this. Next week's podcast, I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen because we do have some unfortunate things that have happened today that might affect that. I will definitely reach out to you guys on Twitter and let you guys know. But if we don't have it, I did want to at least point out that we did get some questions about like what are holiday plans for the podcast. There are holiday plans. I'm not going to go too much into them. I know that you guys will love them, but we are working our butts off to be able to make some holiday stuff work out for the podcast as well as for our channels. So you guys can stay tuned for that. I think you will be more than satisfied with what we are actually coming up with. But let's go ahead and start wrapping this up for the evening. If people want to get a hold of, say, Brenton and get his opinions on the various stories that he's had or that we've discussed tonight, or just for the heck of it, if you guys want to reach out to him on the whole Amazon debacle, I would love to hear his opinions on that too. Brenton, how do they get a hold of you for that?
Well, I am here on YouTube at Brenton Volley Gaming, which you can read right here because I love not having to spell my name.
I love at the bottom, #pink is for Sith. Nice.
I was waiting for somebody to say something. I've had that there for a good hour now.
Well, I mean, Darth Vader does have a pink lightsaber. Look it up, people.
Oh, I did. It's amazing. My Twitter banner may now be pink Darth Vader. I'm trying to decide on that or not. Anyway, but I can also, Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at bvolley01. I do post in there as regularly as I can. Whenever I have a new video, you will be notified on Twitter if you follow me. I am like. As the current status of my channel, I kind of don't really have a status right now. School is taking its definite #1 priority right now. And since I work at a high school, Christmas break is slowly approaching me. And so just because I will not have work for about a week and a half, it does not mean that I will be making content. It actually means that I am looking for a different job because I don't get paid enough for what I do and for what I am qualified to do. So I got to look for a different job. But I'm hoping as I start to I'm fingers crossed that I'll be able to focus a little bit more time on YouTube going into the spring, depending on my coursework, because I do have to because of how close I am to the end of my degree, I have to put school first. But I'm trying, guys. YouTube may be on the back burner, but it doesn't mean that I'm not planning new Final Fantasy VII videos and the future of
I can confirm this. In fact, he's been reaching out to me. I know that he's working on it for you guys.
Yeah, I'll get into more details about Final Fantasy more than likely in the next episode that I put up. But when that episode goes up, I don't even know. So just be patient. If you like, the best I could tell you is follow me on Twitter and subscribe to my YouTube channel and be patient, because I'm having to be patient with me as well.
Exactly. And I am actually also happy to say that we do have Brenton for the bonus holiday plan. So you guys will be able to get additional stuff from him there, and that'll be awesome. But yeah, I can also confirm that he is working on Final Fantasy. For those who are asking, he's working on it. He's just, unfortunately, I've had to give him some bad news too. So at that point, it's probably not, he'll work on it for you guys.
It wasn't news I wanted, but anyway, yeah. Alex's turn.
So Alex, how do people get a hold of you? Especially since you have major holiday plans on your channel as well.
I do, because exciting announcement. Wait for it, drum roll. Okay. Exciting announcement for reals here. I am going to, once again, do the 12 Days of Anime on my channel, as well as many, many other people who also participate in this annual tradition. Basically just over the course of 12 days or how much ever you want. There's really not a strict adherence to rules here. It's just a guidelines to whatever but people can make work. You, of course, talk about your anime and manga and visual novel and video game or whatever you really want throughout that you had throughout the year, experiences, whatnot. It's a fun program. And yes, I'm going to definitely shoot for all 12 days, come hell or high water. Hopefully shit's not going to hit the fan too hard, and I'll get it all done. I did it last year. So yes, I'm doing 12 days of anime again this year. I'm excited to do that. So follow me, Shadow Blizzard 3000 on YouTube for that content. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. I'm going to have fun. And of course, you always want to know when I'm going to put up new videos. Follow me on Twitter at Alex J. Short.
Alex,
and one more thing.
Go ahead.
One more thing. As kind of a weird follow-up, not really, but as kind of a fun little way to follow up all the Amazon stories from the previous recording that we've done. I just found this story. Apparently, a driver who was delivering Amazon packages was caught taking a shit in someone's driveway.
I knew it!
That was on the driveway.
You want to know the sad reality is?
In your house.
You want to know what the sad reality is here, people? People paid $250 for that service. People paid.
This isn't. Now, to be fair, this isn't really connected to the whole Amazon key story, but I just figured it's a funny thing to send off. One more reason this whole Amazon putting stuff inside your house is a bad idea.
I'm just saying.
If the dude took a shit on the driveway, imagine what happens when you give him access to your house.
All it takes is giving him a smart key, and then you've got that problem. But I just barely realized something, Brinton. There is a particular anime that we've been wanting Alex to watch. Something tells me we need to send it to him soon so he can involve it in the 12 days of anime.
Oh, I completely agree with you.
Yes. We need to package bomb him with this particular anime.
Okay.
Yeah.
You better make it quick because it starts in 2 weeks.
Oh no, don't worry, my friend. Don't worry. It'll get to you within 48 hours. So anyway, if people want to be able to get a hold of me, first of all, you could follow me on YouTube, which is the channel that you're on right now, Drac2326. I normally do Let's Play content, but I also take on game reviews. I try out brand new games and give you guys my thoughts as we go along. I do vlogs. I do all around geek material. I don't necessarily focus to a specific theme. And also I do these podcasts. So you have access to the archive for the Geek News Reviews and Opinions podcast on YouTube, as well as on the RSS feed, which I'll get to in a second. You could also follow me on Twitter at Drac2326 and be able to ask your questions directly. Or you can also follow my channel's Facebook page and look for Drac LP in Facebook to be able to follow the page there. And then when we have awesome things like Gaming with the Geeks, which just barely finished with me and Alex and Romney taking on Metal Gear 2, or when me and Brinton will take on the next Devil May Cry, all of that will be there and at you guys' disposal. So if you want to follow the podcast directly, the first thing that we recommend is that you follow the direct page, which is geekyweek.podomatic.com. When the edited episodes go out, that's where they go, and that's where they're attached to the iTunes feed. And for those who have been asking that have Android and Spotify users, I actually just barely got some brand spanking new news. Apparently got a whole lot easier to put a podcast up on Spotify. I've already been working on that stuff. You guys have been listening to. It's happening. We are going to get we already have iTunes covered. We're going to get Android covered as well as Spotify. So don't worry about that too much. You can also follow the podcast's social media, and it's under the exact same headline. So you can go to Twitter at GeekyNRO, or you can look it up on Facebook under GeekyNRO. And for those, you'll get up to the minute information when we're going live, the stuff we're going to be talking about, upcoming holiday plans, things like that. That's where we tend to share that stuff to you guys. And so those are the ways to be able to keep in touch with the podcast. And if you want to submit stories, because we do get user submitted stories, you can submit them to geekyweek@gmail.com. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another awesome episode. We're almost done with this year, and then we can move on into the next one. But until the next time, for me, for Brinton, and for Alex, we'll see you guys next time for more geek news, reviews, and opinions.